Hello everyone and welcome. If you're just joining us, in our previous video we were setting up our space to be able to include a mover, which will be an object that will ferry both our player and our bots from our lower level down here to our upper level right here. And to do that, we're going to need to create a custom shape that we're going to build out of BSP and then export into a static mesh. So follow along. We're going to go ahead and carve out a space down here in the floor for our lift, our mover object to rest. So let's make our basic cube shape here. This is really big. We don't need it to be that big. But we are going to resize this. This is going to be 32, and the width is going to be 512. Yeah, it's going to be 256, and the breadth is going to be 512. All right, that looks correct. I'm going to drag this down. And in our side view here, we're going to put this down below the floor. And right now, I've got the ceiling texture selected. So we're going to close this. We're going to subtract. And you can see this is what our texture down here looks like. We're going to right-click this side here. And we're going to go down to our concrete texture and make sure that that matches up. We're going to click on the sides of the wall here, and we're going to click on our basic concrete texture. And we're basically going to click on all these surfaces. Move this to the side. Bring up our surface properties, which you can do, by the way, by selecting this button and not just right-clicking. And we're going to make sure our light maps are at 4 and our alignment is set to auto so that they should match up with the rest of the walls. Okay. So we've got our little resting pit here for our lift. Now we just need to add our lift. Let's close this. So I'm just going to directly edit our brush preview here. I'm going to vertex mode, and I'm going to set the grid size to something just a little bit smaller. We'll go down from 16 to 8. And I'm just going to drag these vertices in by 1 grid space. Actually, let's get even crazier with this detail. Let's go ahead and just make a fully detailed lift. Let's grab these vertices, let's pull them over here, and yeah, I think we'll stop right there. And we'll taper these in, and let's select a good trim texture for our lift. Let's go with, I know what I'm going to go with. First, I'm going to view, everything's at 50% already. I'm going to expand this view a little bit so that we can see more textures. Looking for something detailed but muted. We don't want this made out of concrete. We want it made out of metal. I think this is going to be a really good candidate. So we're going to select that. Let's pull this over to the side. And I'm also going to make sure that this isn't coplanar with the floor. We actually want it to be off of the floor slightly. And we're going to hit add. And then we're going to select our vertices over here and drag them over. Select this guy over here, pull it up. And this one over here, pull that one up. And then we're going to do this where we span all the way across and create another inset over here, or taper, or actually I don't know what the term is for this, where we create wedges that match up with each other. But this is just for my own sanity of reducing triangles. And then we're going to add, and we're going to repeat this a couple more times. Just going to grab that edge and pull it over here. Grab this edge and pull it over here. Bring that down. Let's add. And then one more time. Oh no, I'm crossing the streams. Move that over there, and we will add. And now we want to put a brush in the center of our lift. And to give it some detail, what we're going to do is we're going to lower the top of this brush. We can probably do it by about 8 grid units. That should be fine. So let's drop it down 8 units. This is coplanar with the surface of our water. That's totally fine. And then let's add. And now let's pick a different texture for our floor here on the lift. So let's go back into our texture browser. Whoops, accidentally docked my window. And let's find a metal floor. I think this will work really well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now we're just going to click on the other surfaces of these brushes, because you can see on some of these sides here the textures have been stretched, and we want to make sure we get our texturing right before we export this as a static mesh. So we're just going to go around to all the sides of this brush, of all these brushes. We're just going to select them all. Make sure we have everything selected. I think we've got it all. We're going to right click, surface properties, and align. And now all of our textures look like they're cohesive. We don't necessarily need to do anything with the floor plating. I think that's fine where it is. And the last thing that we're going to need to do is create some sort of support at the bottom of the lift so that when it is raised up into the full position, it doesn't look like it's floating. It looks like it's got some sort of, mechanism that is holding it up. So we're going to go into our side view. And we're going to pull our preview window down a little bit. We're not going to get crazy detailed with this, but we are going to just, make it moderately detailed. We're going to do this so it's about 10 cubes across. And we're going to put it here. We're going to center it on this side of the lift. And I'm going to close our surface properties because we don't need them right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and it's fine. We won't actually see that it's inside the floor at this point. So we'll go ahead and click Add to add a brush there. And we'll drag this over and repeat that one more time. Click Add. And I'm just going to reset our cube and set it off to the side somewhere. And we have almost everything that we need. We're just going to grab these two brushes. We're going to duplicate them. We're going to move them back into position, and then in our side view, we're going to go into our vertex editor, and we're going to drag these down so that they are equivalent to the distance that our lift is going to travel, and maybe even just a little bit extra for safety. And drag these down so that they match up to the bottom, because we're also going to shrink these in an additional grid space. Just like that. I'm going to go back into my camera view. I'm going to very carefully marquee select our entire lift. I don't want to get the edges of any other brushes. I just want the geometry for our lift. And I'm going to pull this up so that we can see it fully extended. That looks right. So when we want it at the same height as the floor that we're moving to, we're going to have a little bit of extra sticking out the bottom of the level, and that's totally fine. In fact, that's encouraged. We kind of want that. But I'm going to lift this up extra high so that we can do a full compile and see what this looks like when it's fully extended. Okay, so you can see we've got some weirdness going on with our textures here because they are currently aligned to the z-axis. I'm going to deselect our brushes here so we can better see this. And if I go into our textured view, that becomes a lot more apparent. So we're going to align the textures on the bottom of the lift. Let's just go ahead and select those all the sides and the bottoms. Let's come down here to the bottom, get these sides here. And we also probably don't want to use this metal. We probably want to use the same metal that the rest of the lift is using. Just go back into our texture browser and scroll up to that metal that we selected earlier. And then bring this back, bring up our surface properties, and hit Align. Make sure that this is set to T-axis auto. And that should align our textures for us. And that's looking a lot better. Okay, now that we have this, let's go ahead and export this group of BSPs into a static mesh that we can use for our level and that we can use as a mover. So with all of these brushes selected, and you can double check that by clicking on the wireframe view, that all of these brushes are selected. Okay, we've got everything. Go back into my textured view. Let's right-click on our collection of brushes. We're going to go to Convert to Static Mesh. And if you remember from our other tutorial about importing assets and creating assets, we want to put this in the My Level package. For group, we're going to put this into its own special group called Hardware. And the name is going to be Basic lift. And we're going to specify how high the maximum height that we want this lift to go, which will be 256 units. And then we're going to hit OK. And now, if we go into our static meshes, we go into my level, you can see our lift is showing up here. I'm not too crazy about where this lift is in terms of how it was exported and where its origin point is. So we're going to go ahead and delete this mesh from our collection. Let's go back over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the corner of this mesh so we get that little red square. And this is going to be our export point for this mesh. So we'll go down to convert to static mesh, and it should still have all of your information saved from the last time you imported it. We'll hit OK. Let's go back into our static mesh browser. And now when we go to hardware, you can see that it has been centered on our little origin point that we exported our mesh to. We want this because it's going to be a lot easier to get this aligned in the position that we want in the level. So let's go ahead and move this aside. While we still have it selected in our mesh browser, we are going to right click, and actually we're not going to do it this way. We're actually going to go ahead and just set this up as a mover. So we're going to hover our mouse over here, and we're going to right click, and we're going to select mover. And that's going to put the mover over here where our preview brush is. So we're going to head and move this over here into position. We'll get it lined up with our other brush here. And we're going to pull this up so that it's coplanar with the floor. And now that we have it there, we're going to hide this for a second so that we don't select it. And we're going to delete our BSP. Actually, let's not delete it. Let's do something else. First, let's hide our mesh by pressing the H button. And what that's going to do is in this window, or rather in the window that you have selected, whenever you press H, you hide all of the actors and you just leave BSP behind. So you don't see any of the lights, you don't see any of the other static meshes or movers, you just see BSP. And we're going to move this BSP version of our lift somewhere else so that it isn't going to get built and compiled. We'll just leave it over here in the void. But if we need to reference this, for any reason, if we want to like update the geometry on it or add more detail, we still have it in our level somewhere that we can, pull from and reference. So we'll leave that over there. And let's go ahead and show all of our actors again. And we're going to fully compile. And now you can see our mover here is fully bright. And that's fine. That's exactly how it should appear right now, because it's not actually lit with the rest of the level because it's a dynamic object. But we are going to right click on this and we're going to set a number of properties. First of which is we're going to go to mover and we're going to set dynamic light mover to true. And this is going to allow the mover to change its brightness based on the light that it will be receiving at its different positions. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the bump type to pawn bump. And this is just more specifically going to focus on not just players, but bots or any other sort of actor that bumps into it. By bump, what it means is like anything that comes into contact with it is going to trigger it. And then we'll do some fun things here for mover encroach type. This is for an instance where if the lift is up in its full position and a player or a bot runs underneath it and the lift comes down, what sort of behavior we can expect the lift to do when it touches that character underneath it. Return when encroach will simply return the lift back up to the top if it can't come down. And the other options that we have here are to crush the character, just automatically kill them. We can ignore them, and by doing this, the collision will basically move through the character. We can stop the lift, so the character will basically be stuck there until they either are able to get out or they are killed. And my personal preference is to just crush when encroached, because I think that's both hilarious and kind of makes logical sense. So we'll select this. Move time is going to be the amount of time it takes to move from its top position to the bottom position and vice versa. So we're just going to leave this at 1 second for now. Delay time is how long it takes from the second a character steps onto the platform before it starts moving. And we're just going to give this a very slight delay. So 0.05. We don't need to worry about damage threshold or any of these others. What we do want to do, however, is we want to change the stay open time, and we're going to make that 1 second. Actually, no, let's make this 2 seconds. The stay open time, open is essentially when the lift is fully extended. So right now, this is what's referred to as the closed position. And when we lift it up into its fully extended state, that would be its open position. And this is going to be the amount of time that it stays at that open position before it retreats back to its closed position. So that is what this value dictates. And then everything else we can pretty much leave alone. This is not going to be an oscillating loop where it's just automatically going up and down without anybody on it. We want this to be reactive to when characters actually use it. So we're just going to close this. And now we need to set the different states for this lift. So we're going to right click, and over here we're going to see a category for mover. Now key 0, this is the closed state. This is the base. So right now we are on key 0, and this is where we want it to be. But what we want to do is we want to set key 1. So we're going to go to mover, we're going to go to key 1, and then in our side view, we're going to drag our lift up into its open state, and this is going to be key 1. Now if we want to preview this to see where both of these keys are when it's actually functioning, it's really easy to do. We can just right click, we can go to mover, we can hit key 0 again, and you can see this is the position that's been recorded for key 0. And if we right click again and go to mover and go to key 1, this is the position that's been saved for key 1. So this is acting totally as expected. What we're going to do now is we're going to build everything. Well, first we're going to set this to key 0 again, because if we set it at key 1 initially, when the level starts, the lift will be in its fully extended position and we won't be able to get up to our new area. So we're going to make sure that it's set to key 0. And now we're going to do a full compile. And now we're going to preview our level. All right, we're in our map. And we can see our new room and our lift. And if we step onto the lift, it moves us up. And then it goes back down after a couple of seconds. And if we stay on the lift, after a couple of seconds, it'll retreat back down again. So I think that's a really good compromise for that. And then our curved hallways are looking pretty good. And now we can jump across to this other platform. We can double jump to this wall over here. So we've already created a whole bunch of interesting opportunities for our players to be able to get around and make some fun tactical decisions. Okay, so one thing to note is that right now, just with our current setup, our bots are not going to be able to use this lift for a couple of reasons. The first is that we don't have any items up here to entice them to want to come up to this area. But also, we haven't set up any special pathing conditions for them to understand how to use this lift. And so to do that, we're going to need a couple of special path nodes called a lift center and a lift exit. So we're going to set those up right now. First, we're going to go into our actor browser. We're going to go to navigation point. And we're going to go to lift center. Pull this over here. And we're going to right click on our lift. Actually, no, we're going to right click on our concrete here. And then we're going to select add lift center here. Let's go into our top view. And we're going to drag this object into the center of our lift. And I'm also going to turn on real-time previews, like we do. Now we need to associate this lift center with this lift. So one of the ways we can do that, well actually the only way to do that, is we're going to go into our mover properties, and for our mover, let's see, is it here? Or is it here? I actually think it's here. So we're going to give our mover a name, and we're just going to call it lift. Oh no, we can't change that here? Actually, maybe it's in events. Yeah, you know, actually it's here in events. So for tag, we're going to call this lift 01. And then for our lift center, go into lift center properties and events. We're also going to give it the tag lift 01. Now, this is basically just going to tell the bot this is where the center of the lift is, but it's not going to tell the bots where they can enter the lift or exit from the lift. So we need to add a couple of lift exits. So let's add one here at the floor. Add lift exit here. And one up here on the second floor. Lift exit here. And I'm going to try and put these closer to the edges. Of our lift. And I'm going to select both of these and click on the properties. And for events, for tag, we're just going to give these both lift 01 as their event tag. And now that we've set all of these nodes up, the last thing we need to do is build paths. So let's do that. I'm going to hit close. And it says no lift found for this lift center. So we clearly didn't put the name for the lift in the right place. So let's go back to our mover properties. Let's figure out where we need to put that. Maybe we need to put it here. Lift 01. And let's see if that resolves the issue. Nope, that's not it. Did we use the right name? Lift center is lift 01. Nope, that's not it either. Oh, we need to put it here. Lift tag. Nope. Nope, not begin map. Lift 01. Do we need to do the same thing for our lift exits? I don't think we do. Lift tag. Lift 01. And now let's compile. Okay, so now we have one more error. And it says the mover associated with a lift center must not be a bump open timed. Now you might be wondering, what is that setting? I didn't see that anywhere in the mover when we were setting it up. Well, it is there. We just need to go to the properties. And under object, initial state, we need to change this to stand open timed. Now what this is going to do is when a bot stands on top of this, instead of just bumping it, that means they're intentionally trying to use this lift. And so that's going to allow them to ride it up to the second floor. So if we compile our paths again, we're not getting any more errors. And that is effectively how you debug and troubleshoot getting your lift to work with bots. Now, we're not done yet because we still need to entice the bots to go up there. So we're going to go ahead and give them the tastiest weapon to go after. I think this is the rocket launcher. Yes. So we're going to go ahead and move the rocket launcher up to our top floor. Let's drag this over here. And let's move it over here into this alcove. Just like that. Center that on that little cross grid there. And we're also going to raise this up in our front view so that it is on the floor on our second floor. Make sure that is centered. Perfect. And then we're just going to put another weapon here in its place. So let's go over here to our shock rifle. Let's duplicate this. Drag it over. And we'll make this a minigun. Or a link gun. Haven't decided yet. I'll have to choose in a couple of seconds. Let's see. Link gun, minigun. What should we choose? You know, let's go with minigun. Actually, I changed my mind. Let's go with link gun. Because minigun is too much like the assault rifle that the player starts with. And link gun has some more interesting features. So we'll go with that. We'll do the link gun. And now we're probably also going to want to set up some just additional path nodes around. I don't think I want the health here anymore. I think I want that up here on our platforms. So I'm going to move this health generator up here to this platform, and I'll put it right in the center. Put it right in the center right here. And I'll make sure that it's also centered on top of the platform over here. Just double check to make sure this is looking good. And I think while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and change these textures here to be, where's my texture browser? I want to change that to be the same concrete so that it looks like a floor that you can stand on. There we go. Did I do the same for the other one? Yes, but the texture isn't aligned, so I'm going to right click on this and align those textures. Perfect. Now let's duplicate this. Get rid of this. Duplicate. And put this on the other side. So we now have 2 health chargers. Make sure that's centered. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and... How did that get misaligned? Oh, I know how it got misaligned. Okay. Let's also align it here. There we go. Go over here. Select this. And I think I want to center them over here on this concrete tile right in the middle. And that way I can place a path node here. And I can place a path node here. And I can also place a path node here. And I'll also want to place a couple of path nodes in here just for bots to get around a little bit easier. So I'll set a path node on this entryway to the hallway. Now it doesn't have a line of sight to that path node, but that's okay because we're going to string a number of items through these curved hallways to entice bots to go through them. So let's put one final path node there. Let's just check our positioning. Yeah, this is good. We got a nice little crossing of different paths here. So now we're going to go into our actor classes and we're going to go to pickup, tournament pickup, tournament health, and mini health pack. And I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to right click and add mini health pack. And it's going to create this little blue file of health. Move this back over here. You can see it's got the little bubbles in it. And we're just going to duplicate this several times through the curve of this hallway to entice bots to want to take this path and get to the health stations over here. So let's actually move this so that it's right on the borders of the curved hallway. Let's duplicate this. Add another one. Doesn't have to be perfect. Except, as I've said, I'm a perfectionist, so I am going to try to get to perfect. All right, so we're going to put this here. We're going to get this little guy and put him here. Going to duplicate him and put him here. And then we'll duplicate one more time and put them right here. I'm going to move these two path nodes down into these. Actually, no. I'm going to leave them where they are. I'm going to put them here. And instead, I'm going to put a couple of player starts in these corners. Also, I am going to add some additional pickups to this side, and on this side we're going to use adrenaline capsules. So let's go back to our actor browser and click on adrenaline pickup, and we're just going to add adrenaline pickup here, and it's going to give us these little white and orange pills. So we're going to duplicate this 5 times. I'm going to put it right here in what feels like the middle of this segment. Duplicate it again, put it on the center of this segment. Actually going to drag this down a little more. Duplicate it again. And one more time. There we go. All right, now I'm just going to put those player starts up here. Add player start. Let's put you in the corner. Let's rotate you around so that you're facing the center of this room. And let's duplicate you. And have you face the other direction. There we go. Good enough. And now, if we move back, see our level as a whole. Let's go ahead and build everything. And now you can see our path networks leading through our hallways and connecting to our platforms. Oh, actually, I forgot to add a path node here. It's a good thing I had this on to review. Add a path node. Let's do a full compile of this one more time just to make sure everything is copacetic. And it looks good. Our hallways are a little bit dark, but that's okay because we've got the guiding light of our items to lead you around the hallway. All right, let's go ahead and play our level in Unreal Tournament 2004. Be sure to save your changes. Let's close. Go to Unreal Tournament. Instant action, deathmatch, tutorial level. And we'll drop the skill on these guys just to see how well they navigate at a lower skill level. And let's spectate. Now what we're watching for is to see if a bot chooses to use the lift. There he goes. Oh, no. Decided not to because he was getting tagged by somebody else. Oh, he was so close to using the lift. Oh, wow. There we go. So now we know for sure that the lift functions properly and the bots know how to use it. And that's going to conclude this tutorial. So in our next tutorial, we're going to start talking about optimizations, and specifically how to use portals and use them to effectively cut off areas of the map that you can't see and prevent them from being drawn. And until then, I will see you in the next video.